be here in BALLE land. And especially under the watchful eyes of the BALLE mama over there. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about Occupy and about BALLE, and you know, it seems to me that those two ideas are kind of a match made in heaven. They're two sides of the same coin. You know, I got involved in the Occupy movement last October because I had been working for economic and social change for 20 or 30 years and not getting anywhere, and it seemed to me that the reason why we weren't getting anywhere is that we lacked an essential ingredient, which was a broad-based grassroots movement. And I got involved in Occupy because I saw that it had the potential of becoming that. And you know, as I've gotten to know and to understand Occupy better and better, which is a difficult thing to do, it's become really clear to me that the huge majority of people within Occupy are very supportive of the idea of small local businesses. I mean, mostly the movement is anti-corporate, and it seems to me that the BALLE movement is anti-corporate, especially in terms of those huge national and multinational corporations that are using their power in their own narrow self-interest to, as Chuck mentioned, rig the rules in their favor. So there's these two organizations that, as far as I'm concerned, should be working together, and each organization would be stronger if they were doing that. You know, I think that the other thing that brings the two organizations together is the concept of being values-led, that so many small businesses, so many members of BALLE are led by social and economic values and progressive values. And you know, I get the feeling a lot of times when you talk to people who are in the local war movement that they've kind of given up on government. That, you know, government is never going to change, government's never going to solve our problems, but you know, the reality is that we will never address the problems, and we will never create the change that we need to create without influencing government, without acting as a counter to those huge multinationals that are currently influencing government. And you know, there's one symbol that I've seen going around, which is the number sign and the greater than sign and the dollar sign. Numbers are greater than dollars, and that is where our power lies. We have the numbers. We've got more numbers than they've got, and we can be stronger, and that's how we can win. And in order to do that, we just need to work more together, and we need to act as that counter to the status quo corporations. Well, you know, a lot of people look at the Occupy movement and they say, you know, these guys are clueless, they're disorganized, they're, you know, the things they do don't make sense. And I think that what we need to understand is that Occupy never set out to be a movement. They never set out to be an organization. They set out to be 200 people in a park that were going to camp out there in order to protest Wall Street. And so the systems that they set up were incredibly effective for that purpose, for organizing 200 people in a park. You know, the idea of bringing everyone together each night and having a general assembly and deciding by consensus and using a direct democracy model and having all the work performed by work groups that were organized horizontally made a whole lot of sense for 200 people. But you know, the idea that of calling out Wall Street and standing up and saying that the emperor has no clothes struck such an incredible chord that spontaneously all these occupies started up around the country and around the world. And there was just no way to, there was no infrastructure. You know, when I got there to Occupy Wall Street in October, you know, I was saying, well, where's the system for capturing the email addresses of supporters, of these millions of supporters around the country? And, you know, it just wasn't there. People hadn't thought about it. So, you know, right now, you know, Occupy was a raging fire in the fall, and now it's kind of down to embers, and it remains to be seen what will become of it, and you know, if we can rekindle at least some of that fire, and that's certainly what I'm putting a lot of my effort into. But it's BALLE businesses and small businesses that can really help to rekindle that fire. I mean, I was just, you know, on a conference call where people were talking about, where Occupy people were talking about the idea of coming up with window stickers for small businesses, essentially saying, I support Occupy or I support the 99% movement. And like I say, these two movements deserve to work together. They need to work together if we're going to accomplish what either movement is trying to do. And as far as I'm concerned, they're both trying to accomplish the same thing. And you know, you will see Occupy starting to, well, it's already starting to hit the papers again with relation to Chicago and the NATO conference that's happening there, and the major message that they're putting out, which is let's spend money on social needs, not war, and the message that NATO is essentially the enforcement tool of the 1%. And then there's a national gathering, a national Occupy gathering that will be happening in Philadelphia around July 4th. So Occupy has had really tremendous success. As Chuck said, they came up with the idea of the 1% versus the 99%, and that caught on, and that changed the whole political debate in the country. Before they were around, the political debate was around the deficit and making all these cuts. And then the political debate changed to focus on inequality. They've been incredibly effective in terms of stopping home foreclosures. Occupies around the country have occupied people's houses that were about to be evicted and thrown out. And in most situations, they've been successful at getting banks to back down because the banks got so much bad local publicity. and they were actually quite effective in terms of getting the millionaires tax passed in New York State. So I think very much that the local born movement and the BALLE movement is a political movement, and that I mean, it's not political in the sense of partisan politics, but that I think that it needs to embrace that and understand that unless we're active politically and able to, as Chuck was saying, change the playing field so that it's a level playing field, so it's not a playing field that discriminates against local businesses, we're not going to achieve the change that we seek. I personally think that the highest and best use of the movement as it exists right now is to focus on the root cause of so many of these problems, which is money in politics. And it's the issue of corporate personhood and the issue that money is free speech. Those were two Supreme Court decisions, and there's a movement underway right now to overturn those Supreme Court decisions with a constitutional amendment. And when I first heard about that campaign, I said, right. Yes, that's what needs to be done, but what's the chance of getting a constitutional amendment? And it was only after the Occupy movement started to come into being that I realized that it was possible to create a massive grassroots movement, that times have changed, and that people are ready to make that happen. And there's now 5 major national organizations working on this issue of passing a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics. Public Citizen, People for the American Way, Common Cause, Move to Amend, and Free Speech for People. And in Vermont, Jerry and I have worked quite a bit on the issue, and Vermont is now the first state legislature that's passed a resolution I've been thinking about this, and it seems to me that of course, money in politics is the root of the problem, and if you one of the criticisms of the Occupy movement is that it was unfocused and didn't have any demands, but if you talk to the people within the Occupy movements around the country, it's clear that the issue that there is most agreement on, and that there is nobody against, is the idea of passing this constitutional amendment to get money out of politics. The General Assemblies in New York and LA passed it. The New York City and LA city councils have passed resolutions in favor of that. But the question is, how do you do it? How do you make it happen? How do you build this broad-based grassroots demand? And I think it's one of those jujitsu things that we need to use money to get money out of politics. And so if I could have the next slide, maybe I'd do that by pressing. Yes. It's a money stamping campaign. We print our own money. That is the solution. And
looks like they come pretty cheap.
It is amazing they do come pretty cheap. It's legal. We actually hired a lawyer to get us a legal opinion that you can do this.
any with you?
What's that?
Do you have any stamps with you?
Geez, if only I had thought. We could have started it right here. But get in touch. I'll get you stamps.
You print this, or you take a regular?
No, regular rubber stamp. And you know, the idea is that anybody can do this at home in the privacy of their own home, or especially in your small business. You know, I mean, you guys can really make this thing happen. You get a lot of cash. And, you know, you could even encourage your customers to pay with stamped cash and give them a discount. You know, I think we can get tens of thousands of people. Ooh, yes, yes, thank you. Right. Oh, you're doing this in Columbus. He's already doing it. He's got it figured out. I mean, this is a spend local stamp that he's putting on.
It's a $2 bill so that people notice it.
Actually, you know, I mean, the best analog for this campaign is where'sgeorge.com. This is a campaign that's been going on for years, encouraging people to stamp bills that come into their possession with where'sgeorge.com. And when you stamp the bill, you register the bill on this website. You put on its serial number. And the idea is that somebody gets one of these bills and goes on the website and says where the bill showed up. So it's you know, kind of a art game of following the path that money takes around the country and around the world. I mean, that's a money stamping campaign that doesn't really have any greater or higher social purpose. And that campaign has gotten tens of thousands of people stamping millions of bills. And so, you know, when you think about how much people want to get money out of politics, I think that the potential here is huge, particularly if we can seed it with BALLE businesses. And this isn't the only thing that we can stick on there. We could say corporations, not people. Money out of politics, yeah. What else can we say? Oh, and this is the plans for a money stamping truck. To publicize this campaign, we're in the midst of constructing a kind of a small flatbed van that's open with a Rube Goldberg style machine that stamps people's currency, and it will go on a national tour to bring, you know, to get publicity and to bring public attention to this campaign. Because the reason to do this is there you go. We can change that. All right. Thank you very much.